into it. Welcome. My name is Lasso. This is Lasso's Passions, for those who don't know, and we're about to get into it. We're about to do a movie review and plot outline of the 2015 movie Vacation, starring Ed Helms. You would recognize him if you watch The Office. He's in that show. I got my ginger ale handy this time. Always have a different kind of drink with me. So welcome. Before we get started, I will do my little spiel that I always do. This video is brought to you by the Indie Showcase and the Stay Gold Film Festival, which is on Film Freeway and is currently taking submissions from all over the world. And their deadline is December 24th. I also want to mention that my book is out on Amazon. It's called Dialogues, Oklahoma Independent Cinema. And you can buy yourself a copy if you like for $14.99 plus shipment. What's up, Krishna? Yeah, I keep missing you. So glad you can stop in for a minute. Today we're going to be reviewing Vacation. So have you seen that movie, Krishna? You know which one I'm talking about? So this is a reboot of the classic John Hughes films starring Chevy Chase, which he is in the movie. It's actually cool that the way it's set up is that Rusty, his son, the character that Chevy Chase plays, what's his name, Clark. His son Rusty is kind of taking on this whole the whole vacation thing. He's got his own family, and the Chevy Chase, he plays that original character, and then his wife is in the movie, and they do a little scene there at the end, which is really cool. So that was pretty neat. I'm surprised there hasn't been another Vacation movie. I feel like they did such a good job with this movie that you'd think there would be another one. You haven't seen it, Krishna? Hilarious. Okay, hilarious. Okay, so it's like they did a really good job of taking that old classic movie and really taking it up a notch, right? To kind of match today's comedy. And so I thought it was hilarious. There's no dull moment. What's up? We got Tracy Petty 731 in the house. How you doing? There's no dull moment in the movie. It has a really good pace. There's always like a comedic beat, whether it's with the dialogue or something crazy happening. But it's it all, and the way the story's structured so well. The character arc is there. I mean, everything is there in place. But I highly recommend it. I was laughing my butt off throughout the whole movie. The characters are hilarious. You got Rusty. What's up? Broken Bottle Productions 122. Are you from Dixieland? I'm not from Dixieland. I'm in Oklahoma. I'm in Oklahoma and actually from Argentina. That's where I was born. Tracy Petty. Guess my age, she says. Krishna says 5 years. That's a little too young. I don't know. I mean, how am I supposed to guess that? There's no way for me to. You could be in your teens, you could be in your 20s, you could be a full grown adult. There's no way for me to know. But if I had to take a guess, I'm going to guess 12. Am I wrong? Let me know how old you are. Lower? Man. By how much? But anyways, welcome. Welcome for being here. And the movie, they have kids, right? So I think one of them is like in high school, possibly. The other one's younger. But it's funny because Kevin is the youngest, and he's a real rascal. He's a real troublemaker. And then James, he's like the more polite, stand up citizen, stand up kid. He's really smart musician. 2 years old. Get out of here. Get out of town. You're not 2 years old, Tracy. Um, if you are, you're like a baby genius handling a phone right now or a computer. You're 10. Oh, you're saying -2. Gotcha. You're 10 years old. Wow. Do I remember when I was 10? No, because I haven't been thinking about that for a long time. But so then you have Debbie, the wife of Rusty. Rusty's the main character, and Debbie's his wife. And their character arc is pretty basic. I mean, they have a very what do you call it? A redundant suburban life. It's kind of boring. The spark between man and wife is kind of has been dulled out. There's no excitement. The kids are fighting all the time. You know, they're like it's funny because the youngest kid is always picking on the older brother, which is pretty funny. Daniel Berry Sport Highlight 585 851. Happy Friday. Hey guys, he says. Happy Friday to you. Hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving if you're in the US or other countries that celebrate. I don't know if any other country celebrates that, to be honest. But anyways, I hope you had a good Friday. I'm thinking you were born just now. Yeah. You know, and so there's it's got everything in place, right? I'll kind of go over that when I go over the outline. So I'm going to go over the outline, but like I said, if you haven't seen it, it's hilarious. I wish I could. I wish I could. It's kind of like a weird habit that I have. It's 11 o'clock. I get a little tired. I vape. I need to quit. I know. I know. I know, Marco Castro, R9C. R9C. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Let's see if I can stop vaping for the rest of the video. So, let's get into it, shall we? What do we got here? Football 39S says, "What are you doing on the stream?" And it's 2. I told you don't smoke, says my brother in India, Krishna. Yeah, I know. I've actually cut back a lot. I used to smoke a lot more than this. Um, but yeah, hi, Marco. What up? What up? What up? You'll give me $1. I appreciate it. Hey, a dollar earned is a dollar. I don't know what the saying is, but football 3 E9 says you smoke. Yeah, I used to smoke a lot, and then I've cut back a lot as well. Like I said, I do it backslip. But anyways, let's get into it, shall we? Let's get into the outline of the plot. I like to break down the structure of the movie. Me, talking about me, how old I am? I am 39 years old. I turned 39 this November, November 16th. You know, he says, I'll give you $20 if you stop smoking. All right, that's a deal. That is a deal. So I'm going to get into it, okay? The movie starts out, okay? The movie starts out on an airplane called Ecoline, and you're in this plane, and you know, and Rusty's flying this airplane. He's a pilot. He's got a co-pilot, and okay. There's so much funny dialogue in this movie, so much, and so there's an old man next to him, and Rusty's like he makes a comment like, you know, you old guys, you old guys, you know, you're so much better than us. You have so much experience, and all this, and the old guy says, you know, Rusty, I really appreciate you going to bat for me, and then like he's like, yeah, no problem. And then a bit later in the dialogue, he says it again, like there's something wrong with him. And Rusty's like, yeah, yeah, no problem. And so he goes to the back because he's got to use the like the bathroom, you know. And so he's out there. There's a bit of turbulence, and he kind of loses his balance, and he like slips and falls, and like his hand lands on this woman's chest. And there's 3 sitting. There's the woman, a little like I want to say 6-year-old, and then the dad, who happens to be the dad who's playing the dad is Colin Hanks. He's the son of Tom Hanks, for those who don't know. Um, but yeah, it's funny because he's there. There's a lot of cameos, a lot of like 6, 7 cameos by like a lot of famous actors that you would recognize from their face. But so there's turbulence, right? He's like Rusty's like, oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry, you know. And Colin is like, oh, no problem, it's not a big deal. And then the little kid's like, you know, I want to be a pilot when I grow up. And so Rusty's like, you know, yeah, no problem. If you study hard and you know do that, you'll be a pilot one day. And then there's more turbulence, and he like goes flying up. He hits like his back on the ceiling of the plane, falls down, and when he falls down, his finger is goes in the mouth of Colin, and his face like goes down the kid's lap, and then his other hand's like on the woman, and he's like, "Oh my god!" He's so embarrassed. He's like, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry." He's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. This is so weird. This is happening." But you guys are going on, huh? You guys are talking back and forth. Hey, hey, now keep it civil. Keep it civil. But so then he's like, excuse me, I'm so sorry." Then it happens again. There's turbulence again. He like goes flying back and forward. He falls forward and like rips the blouse of the woman. And then he's like, "Okay, I'm so sorry. Let me help you with that." And then Colin Hanks, like that's the name of the actor playing like the dad. He's like, "No, it's enough. That's enough. Just get away from us." And so he's like, "Okay, excuse me." And when he goes back into the cockpit, uh, he sees that the co-pilot, the old man, has flown the plane to like 60,000 feet. And Rusty's like, "What are you doing? What, you took us to 60,000 feet? Are you crazy?" The old man turns at him and goes, "Rusty, thanks again for going to bat for me." Just Rusty looks at him like, "Oh my God, you're crazy." So then it cuts to the airport, and Rusty's in the front of the airport waiting for a shuttle. And here comes this guy, this other pilot, and he's like dressed a little bit more fancier. He's got two, what do you call them, stewardess with him, and he's making them laugh. And the guy who plays that character, and we'll see him later at the end of the movie, his name is Ron Livingston. And Ron Livingston is the guy, if you don't know, he was in Office Space. He was the main guy in Office Space, which is really funny because you have Ed Helms, who was in The Office, and then you have Ron Livingston, who was in Office Space. So I thought that was funny that the two have played movies and shows about working in an office and whatnot. So they have a little exchange. It doesn't treat them right because Ecoline is like a really bad airline. They're only a regional, and so he kind of treats them bad. And so he cracks a joke and gets on the shuttle, and the lady driving the shuttle goes, Rusty's about to walk in, and the lady goes, "Oh, sorry, all filled up." And Rusty's like, "Are you kidding me?" So he's like, "Okay." So the shuttle drives off, and there's a little sign that lights up. It says next shuttle 25 minutes, and he's like, "Oh my God." So the next scene is he arrives at his house, and when he arrives and enters, there's his two brothers, like they're kind of in an argument, or it's actually Debbie and his son James, and James has a guitar, and on the guitar, written with a Sharpie, it says, "I have a vagina." And Kevin is the one that wrote it. And Deb is like, "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." And so Rusty, when he walks in, he sees that, and he's like, "What? Like, what's going on? Did he pick on you again?" And they call Kevin down. He comes downstairs, and they have a talk. And the way they have the talk is hilarious because you know the dad is trying to teach a teachable moment, is what he calls it, about gender fluidity. And it's funny because he keeps like, the way he's talking, it's like, "Well, Kevin, even if you didn't have a penis, like, it's fine. We'd still love you." And he's like, "I don't have a vagina." It's like he keeps like, the way, it's just funny the way he says it. And then so finally, they're like, Go to your room, Kevin." So Kevin's like, "I already was in my room." He goes upstairs, and so James is like, "What am I gonna do about my guitar?" It's this acoustic guitar. And the dad goes, "You know what? I have an idea." So he grabs a Sharpie and he crosses out vagina and writes penis. And so James looks at it and it says, "I have a penis." And down below, it's like vagina crossed out. And the mom is like, "We'll get you a new guitar." And Rusty's like, "We got to get cleaned up and ready for dinner because the what is it? The Petersons are coming over." I think it was Petersons. So next scene is the Petersons, and there's another cameo of another actor that we could all be familiar with. Some may not be old enough, but it's Keegan. Keegan Michael Ray is his name, from Keegan and Peele. So it's that black comedian, and so that's the Petersons, and they're having dinner. And I think it cuts to James, and he's trying to get the attention of, I think it's Sheila, and he's like, "Sheila, Sheila," and she's kind of ignoring him, and so it finally gets the attention. Is like, "So Sheila, are you enjoying school? Like, you know, are you enjoying school?" And Sheila's like, okay, it's okay, I guess. And James, the little, like, or I mean, Kevin, the little brother, is like, makes total fun of him. He's just like, Sheila, do you like school? It's like, this is how you sound like. Shut up. And James just is like in shock, and Sheila's in shock. He's like, oh my god, like that's just freaking horrible. And then it cuts to the Rusty and Mr. Peterson. They're talking about how Mr. Peterson built a go kart with his son. He calls his son over. He calls him G-Man, and they're having like banter, and they're just kind of going back and forth, pretending like they're boxing, having a good time. He like really loves his son, and the son is like a good son. And so Rusty's like a little, I don't know, jealous, but he's just like he calls his sons over. He's like, Kevin, James, get over here, and Kevin just ignores him. He's on his phone playing a game, and so James goes over there, and he's the older brother, right? And so Rusty, the dad, starts like sparring with him, and he's like, starts kind of hitting him. And James is like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you hitting me?" It's like just really awkward because they never do this. But Rusty's saying like, "Yeah, we do this all the time, not a big deal." And then he grabs him and pulls out a knife from the table, and he's just pretending to stab him. He's like, ah. And James is like, "Well, what are you doing? This is how people get hurt. Like, what are you doing?" He's freaking out. And he's like, "Why did you do that?" He gets up and he's like, "Why did you do that?" And Rusty's like, the dad, he's like, I'm just joking around, man. We do this all the time." And James is like, "No, we don't." And so he's doing this all in front of Mr. Peterson, and they're just looking at him like, "Whoa, what has just happened?" And then Rusty goes, "How about we build a go-kart? Wouldn't that be fun?" And James is like, "All right, if we have to." And Rusty's like trying to be like, upbeat about it. He's like, "All right, yeah." He calls him G-Man. He's like, "All right, G-Man." And then Mr. Peterson looks at him and goes, "Did you just steal my son's nickname?" And they just have a really awkward moment. And Rusty has like a nervous laugh. Then we cut to the wife talking to Miss Peterson, and they start talking. And this is actually a important part in the movie where Debbie's ring is loose because it comes into play later, and it's like, "Oh yeah, what have you been doing? It's good for stress. I've been spinning. I lost weight." And then Miss Peterson goes, "You know what's great for losing stress or whatever? Flying to Paris." And so she's like showing the pictures of the kids, and Miss Peterson's like, "I noticed that all my friends like my pictures, but you didn't like them." She like brings it up, and Debbie's like, "Oh yeah, I mean I like him. I guess I didn't get around to actually liking them on your social media or whatever." And Miss Peterson keeps making a big deal out of it, but at the same time, is like, "It's not a big deal." And Debbie's like, "Okay." And then they talk about their vacation plans. "What's up, Marco Castro? How you doing?" Keep saying hi. Hi, hi, hi. Where you from? Where you from? Let me know where you're from. Where are you tuning in from? But so they get talking about vacations and how they went to Paris, right? But the Griswolds, they go to the same cabin every year. They've been doing it in like some cabin in Michigan. And Rusty's like in the kitchen, but he overhears, and she says that it's like really boring, but Rusty loves it, and so they go anyways. And so he overhears that, and he's like, like he's kind of heartbroken. And so it cuts to them in bed. They're about to go to sleep, and they're not even talking to each other. TV's on. They're on their like phones and computers and whatnot. Rusty's on the computer looking at pictures from their vacations, and it like every picture that he sees his wife get like sadder and sadder and sadder. And he looks over and sees that his like his wife is just has like a kind of a frown face, and he's just like, "Oh man." And Debbie's over there, sitting, laying on her side, going through the computer, liking all the pictures. And Miss Peterson is going, "Oh," and she's just kind of miserable. And so Rusty has an impulse. He's going through the old pictures of him when he was a kid, and all the pictures with his dad, Clark Griswold from the original Vacation movies. Anyways, there's a picture of them all wearing Wally World hats. So he gets this idea to go to Wally World. So like just like an impulse, he like checks the website and is like, "Yeah, this is gonna be a great idea." The following morning, the kids are having breakfast. Debbie's in the kitchen cleaning. Here comes Rusty, right? The dad, he's like, I have a great idea. It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna go for a trip. And he's the only one that's excited. Everyone else is like, man, no, like I'm gonna miss my first week of wrestling, says Kevin. And James is like, he's like, we're gonna go to Wally World. Like, I don't want to go to some corporate thing. I want to like go experience, America the way like these poets. And then Kevin hits him. He's like, don't say gay shit. It's just kind of really funny. And and Debbie's like, I guess it's better than going to the cabin. She kind of just accepts it. So then Rusty's like, he like shows him a key and is like, you know, and just runs off and then everybody just goes doing what they were doing, goes back to doing what they were doing. And Rusty comes back and he's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to follow me out to the car to show you the new car I rented. And they're like, oh, well, you didn't say anything. It's just another funny moment. So they go to the car and they see the rental, and this is the inciting incident of the movie. There's always a moment in the movie where in the beginning of the movie there's a hook, right? The airplane scene was the hook, and then it shows like the status quo of the characters, like their regular life, and this is what breaks up their status quo. Like a journey is accepted, right? And so the journey is them going to Wally World, and so this is where the inciting incident happens, and we're getting close to finishing Act One and starting Act Two. Before we get into Act Two, Rusty shows off the van he rented. And because it's like Memorial Weekend, there weren't a lot of cars. So the only car he could get is this like bluish van that's called a Tartan. What is it called? A Tartan Tartan Panzer, and it's the Honda of Albania. He's like, this is the only thing they had. This is the only thing we can get. So got some comments going on here. Durham 8656 says Merab or Petra Yan, who is going to win? Actually, I have no idea. You're going to have to fill me in on that one. Marco Castro says, hi, can I give my advice for like doing videos? Because I started today. Uh, be consistent. No matter what it is, be consistent. Do it daily. Do it, figure out a niche, figure out what your passions are and stick to it. And then, whatever hobbies you like and just stick to it, for the long run. But anyways, he's showing off the car from Albania or whatever. And it's so weird. It's so weird. The van, first of all, has three inputs like for gas, and one of them is like for electric, like it's an economy eco thing, and he pulls out the plug. It's a very strange plug. Like I don't even know what you would plug it into, so it's kind of funny. And then the cord doesn't go back. He's kind of have to like reel it and put it in the thing, and it doesn't even fit anymore. And there's two gas uh, entries to put gas, and his and James is like, why are there two gas tanks? Like, why not just one big one? And Rusty's like, well, two is better. And James is like, well, it would have the same volume, so it's just two small volumes would equal the same big volume. It doesn't matter. And Rusty's like, doesn't get it. He's like, huh? Like, no, it's got two. It's better. So those are really funny moments. There's so many funny moments. The dialogue is it's always funny. There's never like a really dull moment. So he shows him that. He shows him that the car itself is weird. The front of the van looks exactly pretty much the same as the back. And the back also has side mirrors. So there's the side mirrors in the front, and then it's got side mirrors in the back, which makes no sense. But it seems like in some weird, funny way, maybe the way the car was fabricated, they just made front ends and put them together. It's really weird, really funny. And then Rusty's like, let me show you something cool. Like he shows him how keys have the little black thing with all the buttons. Well, this thing has like 20 buttons, and he doesn't even know what the heck they do. And one button actually has a swastika, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to press that. We're just that's weird. That's on there, and it's so strange, so funny. And then he tells him, the guy at the dealership or the rental car company showed him this cool thing, a cool feature that if you stick your hand when the door is open, you stick your hand in there, and somebody tries to slam the door, it will stop from slamming. And he's like, so he sticks his hand, opens the door, sticks his hand. He's like, try it, slam the door. You can't do it. The car won't let you. And the wife is like, Debbie is like, no, I don't want to do that. And Rusty's like, come on, just do it. It'll be fun. And it's like, Debbie's like, all right, well, here we go. And shuts the door, slams it, and it actually hits his arm. And he's like, oh my God. He's like freaking out in pain. And he's like, oh, silly me. I didn't activate it. So he pulls out the key thing, the keychain, like pushes a button, makes a little noise. And he's like, okay, it's activated now. It'll work. So he's like, he sticks his hand out again. The door is open and is like telling Debbie to slam it, and she's like, "Are you crazy? I'm not doing that." He's like, "Come on, like I didn't have it activated. Okay, just do it now. It'll work." And so this time she does it even harder, slams the door, and it doesn't stop. It slams his arm, and he's like, "Oh my God, why did you do that?" And Debbie's like, "Really?" He's like, "Okay, okay, yeah, that was on me." And so so he's showing off this car. It is the most ridiculous car. Even the little door handles aren't handles. It's flush with the door. You push the button for the door handle to come out. Instead of a door handle, it's cup holders. Super strange, weird car, hilarious all around. And so Rusty's like, we're leaving like today. So go pack. So they pack things, they get in the car and they drive off. And you have the cord, the cord that to plug in the car. It's like it comes off and it's like dragging on the ground. And then so that's when we start act two. They left the home. They're on their journey. They start their journey, and they show cuts of the vehicle like going through like the city. And every time you see the plug, the cable and the plug just dragging on the floor and creating sparks. And so they're driving, and they check the GPS, whatever, and they're already out of gas. They've only been driving for an hour, and they're already out of gas. So they make a stop, and so the van is like at a gas station, and he's got two fuel pumpers, like plugged into the car, which is weird. I don't know that you can actually do that. So that's my first critique. Even though it's funny, my first critique is I don't think you can actually pump two at the same time unless you're using a different, like, part of the station, a different number. So I thought that was funny, like then really weird and kind of like that doesn't make any sense. Of course, the car itself doesn't make any sense, but you buy into it. But the one thing I didn't buy into was the two pumping things in the car. I was like, you can't actually. I don't think you can actually do that. I don't think that's actually possible. So, anyways, they're on their journey and they're riding along, and this here's the other critique I have about the movie because it does a weird cut. So they're driving, they're talking about Wally World, and here comes a semi truck behind them, and there's a cut where you see the semi truck coming up behind him, and then it cuts to James. He's like in the back seat talking. You see the back window, and the truck is gone. You don't see it. There's another cut, and you see the truck. So it's like there's a really weird cut where the truck is there, then it's gone, and then it's there. So that's my other critique about the movie. There's a weird cut that's kind of messed up. But they're driving, and then Rusty's like, "Oh, check this out. This is really cool. There's a CB radio." He pushes a button, and a CB radio pops up with the even with the little radio talker thingy. You talk to other semi trucks. And oh, I'm not gonna smoke it. I'm gonna try not to smoke it. Like you guys said, don't smoke it. Um, so he starts talking to the semi truck. He's like, check this out, kids. I'm gonna do some semi truck lingo. And he's like, breaker 9 or 1. Uh, to Rubber Ducky, do you see any bears in the kitchen? Something like that. And he gets a response back, and he says like, no, you're green and clear. Like I guess they're talking about police. There's only police up ahead. He's like, you're green and clear for 20 miles. And then Kevin, the smaller kid, is like, that is so cool. Can I try it? And Rusty's like, yeah, sure, give it a shot. You just got to say over whenever you're done talking. And so the youngest, Kevin, like a little rascal, he takes it and he starts, he pushes the button, talks to the semi truck driver. He's like, breaker niner, my friend says that all truck drivers are rapists. Are you a rapist? And everyone's like, no, what are you saying? Like, don't say that. And Kevin's like, oh, I'm sorry, over. He's like, no, no, that's not what we meant. Like, and then so Rusty takes it and he's like, sorry about that partner. He's like, you know how it is when young boys' mouths start going. Not that I'm implying that you know what that is, or I'm not implying that you're a pedophile. And Debbie's like, "Give me that! You're making it worse." Like stop talking, jeez. And the semi truck's funny because it like pulls up next to the car. It's kind of like something aggressive might happen, but nothing happens. And so they stop at another like a rest stop, like a gas station where there's food, and they're having like a meal, and they're talking. Kevin and James have to go use the bathroom, so they go to the bathroom. This is where Rusty and Debbie have a talk about how like when they were younger, Debbie's saying like when they were younger that when he was becoming a pilot, like it was their dream to like travel the world, and it never happened, and it's kind of really laying the foundation of the whole like premise of the movie between those two and their relationship and their character arc. But the character arc basically, like I said earlier, it goes from like their relationship is kind of dying, like their marriage is sort of, and throughout the course of the movie, it gets like worse and worse and worse until they finally like have that spark again between them two, and it's like everything's happy in the end, right? But at this moment, Debbie has a book with her, and it says the help, and that's going to come into play later. But she keeps reading it on the trip and whatnot. But anyways, so they're at this like place, or they're talking about this one, and they leave, and we see a shot of the truck at the same parking lot, and we don't see anything else. And then it goes on. They're en route, and they're driving on the highway, and James sees a Jeep drive by, kind of pull up next to him, like on the side of the highway, whatever. They're going the same direction, and there's a girl in the back seat, and it's kind of like staring at him. At first, he's kind of embarrassed to stare back, but then he does, and he waves, and she waves. They have like a little moment, and here comes Kevin to ruin that moment. He grabs a plastic bag and puts it over James' head, and like starts to suffocate him. He's like, and the girl sees that. The girl in the Jeep sees that, and she's like freaked out. She's like, "What the hell? Like, what the hell?" And so he's like suffocating Kevin. And so finally, Kevin rips a hole in his mouth, and like rips the bag and can breathe. And I'm saying James does, and James is like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, and Kevin's like, "I just want to see how long you can hold your breath before you pass out." And James is like, "I could have died. Like, what are you doing?" And so, and then like, James looks back out the window to see if the girl is there, but the Jeep is gone. And then Kevin does it again. He puts another bag over his head, and that's when the scene ends. Um, what happens next? I'm trying to remember what happens next. Oh man, it's so funny. It's such a funny movie. The way that Kevin, the younger brother, treats his older brother, that he bullies the older brother, which is like it's James' character arc. He's the one getting bullied until later in the movie he actually sticks up for himself, and then like bullies Kevin, and then Kevin never bugs him. But so what happens next after that? I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, so what happens next? I'm trying to remember. Oh man, just so much happens in the movie that's so funny. Mm. They enter Memphis, where it happens that Debbie, the wife, went to college there, Memphis State University. And so Rusty's like, "Why don't we stop your college and show the kids?" And Debbie at first is like, "No, that's a bad idea. I don't want to do that." And Rusty insists, and he's like, "Yeah, maybe one of the kids will go there." And Jen is like, "No, I have my sights more of on an Ivy League type of university." And the mom, underneath her breath, says, "You little shit." And James is like, "What was that, mom?" And Debbie's like, "I love you." And James is like, "Yeah, I love you too." So it's kind of funny. And so they're using the GPS in the car to figure out how to get there. And they press for the destination, and then Rusty is trying to find the fastest route, but he accidentally switches the language, and so it switches to like German and some other language. It finally gets to Korean, and it's like the most aggressive voice on the GPS thing in Korean. They don't understand, and the Korean voice is freaking out. He's like, and they're like, "I don't know how to change it." James is like, "Why is it so aggressive? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Just let it be, let it be." And it shows the screen, and you hear the voice, the voice on the screen. It's like breathing really hard. It's like, like he yells at him. They're like, "Ah!" Like they don't know how to change it back. So finally, they get to their destination, Memphis State College, and the Korean voice, announces their destination. The way it says it, it's so funny because it's like Memphis State College, and it's just so funny. So they arrive, they're walking around, and it just happens that that day, you know, uh, Rusty's like, let's check out your old sorority, and just check that. It'll be fun. So that day, it just happened that they were doing a fundraiser for Asperger's. It's so funny. And it's like this, what do you call it? Obstacle course. You're supposed to drink a whole pitcher before you do the obstacle course and whatnot. And like everybody's partying. You have girls in short shorts, bikinis. They're making out. One guy smashes a beer at his head. Everybody's dancing and just kind of going nuts. And so they get there. They're all like really confused. Like, what is going on? And and Debbie's like, kind of like, yeah, this is it. And these girls approach the wife and whatnot, and they start talking. And Debbie mentions that she was the one that started this whole thing. And they're like, "Oh my god! Like, are you the Debbie Fletcher? Debbie was it? They called her nickname was Debbie Do It All." So they pull out a book. They have all these pictures of like Debbie when she was in college, and it's like the craziest stuff that you can imagine. She's got like just the craziest stuff. And they're talking. Is like, is it really you? You're the Debbie who climbed the clock tower naked. It's really you, the Debbie who would flash your boobs to anyone. Is it really? And Rusty's like I know my wife. She would never do these things. And Debbie's like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. Trying to hide it. And they say the craziest things. I'm not even gonna say them because they're so crazy. And Debbie's like, it doesn't matter if I did those things or I didn't do them. What matters is I started this organization and like it's the best thing I did in college. And they're starting to doubt that it's the real Debbie. It's like, you're not the real Debbie. Like, you seem so like, this is not you. It's all hype. It's all hype. It's like, and Debbie's like, no, I created this thing. I even ran this thing in 16 seconds. And they're like, no way, prove it. It's like, you're old. You can't do it again and whatnot. And she's like, when they say that, it's like, she gets like kind of mad. And she's like, it's like, I'm not old, I can still do it. And so she's like, I got to teach these bitches a lesson, which is what she says. And she goes up to the obstacle course, takes a pitcher of beer, and just downs the whole thing. And Rusty's like, "Oh my god, like I don't know who this person is." And Kevin is like, "What is mom doing?" And Rusty's like, "She's teaching these girls," or she says he's teaching these bitches a lesson, but like with a serious face, like shock almost. So she finishes the beer, and then they start the countdown. They go 3, 2, 1. They blow the horn, and the first thing she does is puke. She's just puking the beer out, like, and everyone's like, "Oh, oh." So she's like, after puking a little bit, not even a little, like a lot, she starts the obstacle course. She has to jump these things and then jump up to this thing, but she like falls. She gets back up, and there's this thing that like goes up and down like this. She has to like climb through. She gets stuck in the middle, and this thing comes right down her back. And every time it does, she like pukes more. And everyone's like, "Oh!" She finally gets out of that. She runs this like tube thing, but she falls, gets back up, and there's a wall that's like that has these like things that stick out, like that go like this, and it's got teddy bears. It's like kind of punching you, I guess. So she's running through that, and she gets punched by one of the teddy bears that are like flying out, and goes flying. She just goes flying like off the obstacle course onto the grass, and she's like, "Yeah, bitches," and then just starts puking everywhere again. She's laying face down in the grass, and beer puke just starts going everywhere. And then it cuts to them back in the car, and Debbie has this face of like, just like she's just like destroyed. And then James is like, "Here, mom, drink some water. It'll hydrate you." And then Debbie, the mom, is like, "Oh, what? What are you doing?" Ah, like just really weird, really funny. And so that's when the song on the radio comes up. It's Rusty's favorite song. It's a song by Seal, and he's singing it like really happily, and everyone's like really annoyed. Even Kevin is like is that a girl singing? And like, and Rusty's like, no, it's a man. It's Seal. He's one of the greatest men ever. He survived lupus and whatnot. And so he's like, why can't we just be a normal family and sing this song together? And everyone's like really annoyed. So they're driving, and the semi truck shows up again, and it shows up like behind them, and it's like flashing the lights and honking the horn. Finally, like it taps them, trying to get their attention. But they think they're gonna die. They think that like the semi truck driver is there to kill them, so they're all freaking out. They're all freaking out, and he's like, "Dad, go, go! You gotta go!" He's like, slamming the what do you call it to go, right? The pedal to the metal, but it doesn't drive very fast. It's going like 80, and so they're like, "Go, make it go faster! Make it go faster! This guy's gonna kill us!" And so there's a button on the center console that's got an image of a rabbit. So it's like, push the rabbit, push the rabbit. So they push the rabbit, and the back bumper ejects. It just falls off, and the semi truck runs over it. And they're like, "What the heck? What is that for? What is even the point? Why is it a rabbit? Like, what is the point of that? It's just pointless." And there's a little button that's got a rocket on it. And they're like, push the rocket, push the rocket. So they push the rocket, and Rusty's driving, and his seat starts turning. It starts turning. They can't stop it, and it does like a whole 360. And while it's going around, he faces the kids, and they're like yelling. They're like, we're all gonna die. And the thing does a whole 360. Finally, goes back, and he's like, okay, I know what to do. I'm gonna do a quick handbrake, do a U-turn, cross the median, go the other direction, like something Vin Diesel will do. And like Debbie's like, so suddenly you're Vin Diesel, like what's going on? He's like, I'm gonna try this. So he turns the car, he grabs the handbrake to make a quick swerve, like something cool. But instead, what happens is he gets sideways, and the van starts flipping on its side like 6 times. It's just boom, 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 boom. They shoot the inside, and the kids are like hanging on. It's like, oh my God, everyone's just hanging on. So finally it lands, back to normal, and the car is all beat up. And the semi truck, was behind him, slams the brakes, and is like honking the horn. And the truck, the back truck bed, or whatever you want to call it, not the bed, but the whole thing it's hauling starts like twisting, and it's about to smash them, and it stops like that far from them, and they're all like screaming for their lives. So funny. One of the most funniest like moments in the movie, right? So they're like, go, 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 go. So they drive off, and they drive off in incoming traffic and jump the median and jump back into to like a different lane, and they're on their way. And they're all freaked out. They're just all like and Rusty's like, I did not mean for that to happen. It's so funny. So they're on their way. It's like nighttime, and they get to a motel. It's called Save and Sleep. It is the most disgusting, dirty, broken down motel you could find. And so they're in the room, and Rusty and Debbie are talking, and he's like, well, like, why'd you never tell me about those days in college and whatnot? And she's like, well, I was immature. I was lashing out. I did a lot of stupid stuff. And now I'm different. I'm a different person, right? It's like I married you. I'm a different person. And Rusty's like, well, how many guys did you sleep with? And there's a funny scene where she's about to say 30, and she's like about to say the first number, and Rusty goes, oh, three? Okay, three, just like me. Okay, I'm relieved. And she's like, no, not three. And Rusty's like, 13. And Deb's like, no, not 13. And Rusty's like, so it's not three. It's like, yeah, it's more like 30. And Rusty's like, what, 30? Like, oh my God. Like, not saying oh my God because, trying to call her a slut or anything, but it was like, I'm such a loser. I've only slept with 3 girls my whole life. I feel like a loser compared to you. You're so cool. And Debbie's like, well, that's not anything. It doesn't matter. It was in the past. And they start talking about their sex life, and it's gone kind of dull and boring. And Drake Drac Kira Lopez 7859 says, high five, Marco. Krishna says, bye bye, brother. You're gonna go. I'll see you around, Krishna. Sorry, we'll do another normal live like probably tomorrow. Right now I'm going over the movie. Sorry, I didn't mean to smoke this. I know you guys told me not to smoke it, but yeah, I've held off quite a bit. But so they're talking about like their sex life and how boring it's gone. So Rusty's like, well, why don't we have sex in the shower? So they go to the bathroom. They open up like the shower curtain, and it is the most disgusting bathtub. It's like green. It has mushrooms growing out of the sink, whatever. Not the sink, but the the drain. And there's like it looks like a blood stain on the wall. And Rusty's like, it looks like somebody shot themselves in the head in here. It's disgusting. And they're like, oh, this is gross. And so Rusty looks for like a something to clean it up with, and he he pulls us like this spongy thing that he think is a Brillo brush, and he starts like scrubbing the tub. And Deb is like, "That's not a Brillo brush. That's just a ball of pube hair." And he's like, "Ah, oh my god!" He's like, "Ah, it's disgusting." He's like freaking out, and so that kind of ruins the moment for them. And anytime like anytime they like try to be intimate, it gets interrupted and they can't do it. And so she pulls out her book called The Help and she like starts reading it. But anyways, it cuts to another. They're in the same motel, whatever. It cuts to outside where James is at. He's at a hot tub. He's just sitting kind of on the edge of it with his feet in the water and he's playing guitar. He's actually a really good singer. He's playing like an old like 70s song. And here comes that girl that we saw earlier in the Jeep and he's kind of like freaked out. He's like, "Whoa!" It kind of like surprises him, And he's like, "Oh," and they notice. He's like, "You're the girl from the Jeep," and the girl's like, "You're the guy with the plastic bag over your head." He's like, "Oh yeah, that was my brother, picking on me, whatever." And so they start to talk a little bit. Her name is Adina, his name is James, and here comes Rusty, the father, in a robe, and he starts acting really creepy. Like he's pretending to be a stranger. He's trying to play the wingman in the situation, which he didn't really need. But he starts to play the wingman. He's acting like a stranger, which is weird when you think about it. Like two young kids, probably in their teens, and they're having like this moment. And here comes this grown ass man in a robe, and he's just like, "Oh, what do we got going here? A bit of a Romeo Juliet situation, huh? Well, look at this young handsome man over here. He's pretty handsome. Do you have a girlfriend?" He's like, "No." It's like, "Oh, well, you better." It's like, it looks at the girls like, "You better, watch out because a handsome man like this who plays guitar will get picked up pretty quick." And she's just like, "Oh my God, this guy's, in her head, you can see it in her face, is just like creeped out about it." She looks at James like, "Do you want me to call the police?" And James is like, "No, no." And then she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go." She's like really uncomfortable. And so before she goes, he's like, "Come on, young man, take off your shirt and let me see your muscles. Come on, give us some muscle." And it's just like it makes everything so awkward. And so she leaves, and James is like, "Dad, why did you do that?" And Rusty's like, "Well, I just, it looked like you needed a wingman." He's like, "But it's too bad it didn't work out, whatever." He's like, James like in his head, he's like, "You've ruined it. I had it. Like you ruined it." And so Rusty sits next to him, and he's like, it's about that time where we talk about sex and whatnot, and James is like so uncomfortable. He's like, "I know what to do," like and Rusty's like, "Well, if there's anything you ever want to talk about, you should just ask." And so James is like, "Well, now that you mention it, there is one thing." And there's like he starts telling the story like, "Yeah, there's some kids at school. They were talking about like rim job. Like, what's a rim job, Dad?" And Rusty doesn't even know what it is. He's just like, "A rim job? What is that?" And so Rusty's like, what's the country of origin?" And James is like, "US, I guess, America." And then Rusty's like, "Use it in a sentence." And James is like, "Okay, what's a rim job, Dad?" And he goes, "Okay." And he's like thinking about it. He's like, "Ah, yes, a rim job is basically when you kiss somebody, but your mouth is closed because you're only using the rim of your mouth." And James is like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, okay." He's like, "I thought that would be a lot dirtier than that, but okay, that makes sense." And so they kind of end their conversation. Rusty gets up. He's like, and like, there's a guy coming up to the hot tub. He's got a towel. He's walking up to it, and and before Rusty leaves, the dad, he's like, "You're not too old for me to give you a rim job, are you, son?" And the random guy, he's like, he overhears this and goes, and like turns around and walks away. So that's when the scene ends, and they're on their way back on the highway. The van is all scratched up and pretty beat up, and they're talking about how they're going to make a stop to their aunt Audrey's house, which, from the original movies, the original vacation movies, Audrey is the sister of Rusty, and so she's much older now. And they're driving, they're talking about it, they're talking about Stone. Stone is like this like weatherman, and everyone's kind of talking about him in a really good way, which makes it kind of like emasculates Rusty in a way. He's just kind of like he's not that great, this and that, whatever. Anyways, before they make a stop to on Audrey's house, they see a hot spring sign, so they decide to go check it out because Rusty's like, "Well, come on, guys! Like, we're not gonna have a chance like this again. This is our chance to stop at a hot springs, and check it out and go swimming in in hot water." And so they go in this line, they pull up. It's a huge line, right? And Debbie's like, "We don't have time to wait around like in line for this." And so there happens to be a local walking by, and there's a rat on the shoulder, which is hilarious. He doesn't even notice it. And so Rusty calls him over. He's like, "Hey, like, you're a local. Like, is there a shortcut, a way to go somewhere to kind of avoid the line?" And the local's like, "Oh, yeah, sure, sure, I can help you. Yeah, no problem. You see that dirt road up there? If you make a left there, it'll take you to a hot spring." And Rusty and the family's like, "Oh, that's great. Thank you, thank you." He's like, and Rusty's like, "By the way, what's your pet rat's name?" And the local's like, he's like, "What, a rat? Where?" He sees it on his shoulder. He like freaks out. He's like, "There's a rat on me!" Like, what the hell? And he goes off running off. Really weird, really funny, really awkward. And so they drive up to that dirt road. They go into it, and like at first, Debbie's like, "I don't know if I trust that guy. He had a rat in his shoulder, and didn't even know he did." And so everyone's kind of not the opposite of optimistic, but Rusty's very optimistic. So they come to the end of the road, which is blocked by a tree trunk, and they get out and they walk a little bit further up, and they see a big pond lake area that's like, it's like steaming. It's like a hot, hot springs. And they're really happy. They're like, "Oh my god, we found it! This is great! This is great! We didn't waste time waiting in line." So they all get in their bathing suits. They change. Well, they don't show that, but they're in their bathing suits and they get in, and they're like enjoying it. And Debbie's like, "Yeah, this is fantastic!" Like, she pulls out mud from down below and like starts rubbing it on her face, and is talking about how like the mud from the hot springs is like, it helps pull out toxins from your skin. And I think Kevin says like, "Why does it smell so bad?" And I think Rusty's like, "Oh, it's the sulfur. It's good for you." And so the camera pulls back while they're in the hot springs water. It pulls back and reveals a sign that says, "Sewage water danger, may cause illness." And they don't know. As the audience, we know, and they're in there rubbing this dirt, which is pretty much shit. They're just rubbing shit all over themselves. Like, they all do it basically. Rusty like takes the water, sips it or whatever, and does like a mouthwash thing with the water and spits it out. And and Debbie's like, this mud tastes kind of shitty, but that's probably part of it. And then Rusty comes up from underneath the water and has like something on his ear. And Debbie's like, "What's on your ear? What is that?" And Rusty's like, "I don't know. I don't." He like pulls it off, and it's an ear. It's like a dead man's ear, or somebody's ear was on his ear. So awkward. He's like freaks out. And like right after that, Kevin finds a needle, and he says, "Look, James, a dart," and throws it at him. And James is like, "What is wrong with you? Are you crazy?" He like dodges it, and everyone's freaking out. And Rusty and Debbie are like, "Get out! Everyone, get out! Get out! Get out!" And they realize they're like in some weird sewage place, and they're just covered in shit, and they're all like freaking out and just like, "Oh, it's disgusting." They hear the car alarm go off, and like, "What was that? What was that?" They check it, and it turns out somebody broke into their car, stole everything, and even paint sprayed a like a penis on the side of the car, which they don't notice at first. but they're all in the car and they're all like, "Ah, my guitar got stolen, our money got stolen, all our stuff got stolen." Still, somehow, Rusty is like really optimistic. Like, no worries, we'll get out of this. And what's funny is Debbie, well, the only thing that was left was the book, the help book that she's been reading. And so they get on their way and they go to Audrey's house, which is like a huge house. It's like a mansion, right? It's like a big house. And they meet with Audrey and Stone, and Stone is like this really, like, he's weird, but he's like alpha rancher basically, with a really, like, and the guy who plays the rancher is Chris Hemsworth, if you know who that is. So, and he plays it really well because he comes off as a jackass pretty much, and he's always flirting with Debbie throughout the whole time they're hanging out, which is really uncomfortable for like Rusty and everybody else. Um, so they meet and they pull up. They're covered in dried shit, and Audrey's like, "Oh my god, like what happened to you?" And they kind of explain, and so they're like, come in, get washed up. I have some clothes I was going to donate anyways. You can have them." And so they're in the house. It finally cuts to the scene where they're all dressed. I'm not even going to address that comment, but yeah. Um, but essentially, yeah. So they're at dinner. They're having dinner, and again, Stone is being really inappropriate with Rusty's wife, like flirting with her, really uncomfortable, and they're having conversations and whatnot. And so, Audrey is the sister of Rusty, and they bring up that they're on vacation to go to Wally World, and Audrey's like, "Wally World, like why would you want to go back there? We went there as kids and it was a horrible time." And Rusty's like, "Well, it's just something I want to do with my family to bring them together and whatnot." And so the following morning, actually, before we get to the morning, the craziest thing happens, right? So Rusty and Deb are in their room, and Deb is like, just from like the flirting that happened with Stone, is like really horny, I guess, excited, like, and wants to, like, she jumps Rusty's bones, and Rusty's like, "Whoa, what's gotten into you? Like, is it because of Stone?" And then sees that her wedding ring is missing, and then like kind of like gets angry at Deb. He's like, "Where's your wedding ring? Like, did you take off your wedding ring? Like, what was your plan, to pretend you're single?" And Debbie's like, "No, no, I was, none of that is what you're saying is true. I mean, I've had problems with my ring slipping off." And if you recall what I said earlier, the beginning of the movie in the first act, they talk about that. They're at the dinner table with the Petersons, and they're talking about how Debbie's ring keeps slipping off because she's lost some weight. So she lost her ring. She doesn't know where it is. Rusty kind of freaks out a little bit, and so finally, like, they just kind of like sit back down. Like, Rusty's like up and moving around. He's angry. Finally, like, lays back down on the bed, and the moment's gone. Right, the moment to be intimate has, like, it's gone. It's got ruined from their little argument. And so Debbie pulls out the book that she's been reading, The Help, which will come into play every time she pulls it up. It's kind of interesting. Like, we don't know as the audience that it means anything, but we later figure out there's actually a really big part of the whole thing. So here comes in Stone in his underwear, right? Not just in his underwear. He's got a six pack. He's good looking. It's Chris Hemsworth, right? And he has the biggest boner that you can totally see, right? Like in his underwear or whatever. Like, you don't see it, but you can see it. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, you can tell there's a boner there. But Rusty never notices, which is hilarious. And Deb is like, this is awkward. So Stone is in there. He's like, you folks need anything, And it's just like, just posing in front of Debbie. And Rusty's like, "Oh no, we're good, we're good." And then pulls the remote control of the TV and literally puts it like almost right next to his boner, and is like, "This is how you turn it on, turn it off. If you need anything, let me know." And Rusty's like, "Yeah, we know how to use a remote, no problem." And Stone is just kind of hanging out in his underwear, showing off his, like, posing. And he's like, "All right, well, You'll have a good night." And he kind of pauses again before he leaves, and he's like, "Okay, okay." Like, I don't know what he was trying to do, but obviously he was trying to do something. I don't know what he was trying to do, but make a move on like Rusty's wife. Like, I don't know, but it was freaking weird. And Rusty turns to Debbie and goes, "Can you believe that? He just came in here to show off his six pack." And Deb looks at him and goes, "Yeah, that's what he did." It's so awkward, so awkward. So the following morning, they get up around 6, and Rusty's helping Stone with these like ATVs, these four wheelers to like help herd the cattle because he's got cattle. He's got to like kind of herd them together. And so they do that. They're kind of racing, and Rusty's going full speed, and he like almost hits a bale of hay or whatever, and then he sees his family waving, and he waves back, and when he looks to turn over, it's like totally too late. He's about to hit a cow. He hits the cow, smashes into the cow, through the cow. It's a bloody mess. It cuts to him standing there and just covered in blood and cow guts. And Stone is just there with a hose, hosing him down. I can't believe you went through my cow. Like, and so finally they leave, and they're back on the highway. And on the highway, they're driving through like desert areas. It's almost like they're near the Grand Canyon, and so it does like a montage that they go to another like motel situation. But these motels, they're designed. The little rooms are like designed as teepees, not real teepees, like cement. They're big, right? It's just a room, and so they're checked in there. You got two beds, the kids on one side of the room, and the parents on one side. And so like the kids are sleeping. And something I didn't notice until this last time I watched it, on the bed where the kids are sleeping, Kevin, the youngest, has all the covers, and he's got his hand on James' face. And then Rusty wakes up, and he's like, "Hey, I have a crazy idea." He's like, "You know how our sex life is kind of like really bad and just boring?" He's like, "I have a really good idea to spice things up." He's like, "Why don't we go to the Four Corners Monument?" You know what I'm talking about? Where the four states, the Four Corners meet. I think you have Utah, Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico. And so Rusty's like, "Why don't we go to that monument and have sex there?" And Debbie's like, "What, you crazy?" Convinces her to go. So they go, and they go to the monument. They're like flirting and whatnot. They're about to do this. They lay down. As soon as they lay down, try to do their thing, like he kind of like Rusty gets surprised because there's a couple right next to him, and they're naked having sex, like they have like one little cover, and they freak out and they get up, and there's like a line of people, like some of them are half naked, some of them are naked, and there's a guy just eating chips, just watching, and they're freaking out, like, "Oh, what is this?" And they're like, everybody there's like, "If you're here to have sex at the Four Corner Monument, you're gonna have to wait in line like the rest of us." And they're like, "Oh, this is disgusting. What is?" And then this cop shows up in the state of coming from the state of Colorado, and he's like, "All right, freeze, nobody move, you two." And they're talking to Rusty and Deb, so they're scared. They're like, "Oh no, we're like we're married. We're just trying to like the cops like say we don't hear about it. You're degenerates doing this." And before he can like put him in cuffs, this cop from Colorado shows up. He's like, "Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. If you can see there, they're in my state, my jurisdiction. Like I have the right to arrest them." And then this lady cop shows up from Arizona. Is like, "Oh, you boys again are at it. No, if you clearly see, his left foot is in my state. This is my jurisdiction." And then here comes another cop from New Mexico. So you have four cops from all these four different states, and they're arguing about who has the right to arrest them. And they're like arguing like seriously. So as they argue, Rusty and Deb just kind of like walk backwards and just kind of run off. And the cops really get into it. They pull the guns out, and one of the cops you may know is his name is Michael Pena, pretty recognizable actor if you saw him. But like I said, there's a lot of cameos from different actors. I mean, you have Chris Hemsworth, Ron Livingston, you have Keegan Michael Ray, who else? And Colin Hanks. So already a ton of cameos from a bunch of like well-known faces and actors and whatnot. But anyways, the cops are at it. They pull their guns out, and you have Michael Pena. He takes out his gun, facing it at the guy from Colorado, and the guy from Colorado puts it in his mouth. He's like, "I'm not scared. You think I'm scared?" And just puts the whole thing in his mouth. And then Michael Pena does the same thing. He's like, "Oh yeah, well I'm not scared either," and puts his gun in his mouth. So they're both holding guns and they both have their mouths. And the other two cops are like, "Oh, we're not doing that. That's fucking crazy. Like everybody needs to calm down." The guy from Colorado and the lady from Arizona is like, "You guys need to calm down. Everybody freeze." So like, everybody get down on the floor. Get down on the floor. Put the gun down. They're just screaming at each other, and everybody starts like getting down, and like they put the gun down. The guy from Colorado is like, all right, I'm the only one cooperating here. So they all lay down on the floor on the four corners, and they all put their gun down, and that's how that scene ends. In the meanwhile, James wakes up and he's just sitting outside, and here comes Adina, and is like, again, a coincidence where they cross paths, and she's like, "Are you stalking me?" And James is like, "No, no, I'm not." She's like, "Oh, relax, I'm joking." And so they sit down, they have a moment. They're about to kiss, and here comes Kevin, little rascal brother, and like starts throwing little pebbles at James' head, and he goes, you really about to kiss that dingus?" Like really insulting. And James keeps taking the pebbles. He keeps getting head like three times. And Adina's like, "Are you really gonna just take that?" And James is like, "Well, he's my little brother. He's such a little kid. Like I'm just taking the high road." And she's like, "Well, how's that working out for you?" And so James is like, "You know what? Fuck it." So he gets up, he confronts his little brother, literally just pushes him to the ground. And Kevin's like, "What? You can't do that." He gets back up and then does it again, pushes him to the ground. And then James is like, "Oh, this is so easy." So like pushes him again, gets on top of him, and is so awkward. He doesn't know how to bully. So he's like slapping him on the forehead. He's like pinching his cheeks, rubbing his ears, even like he calls tickling his mouth. He's just doing this to him. He's like, "Ah." And Kevin's like, "Ah, quit doing that. Like that's so weird." And James is like, "Well, are you gonna stop bullying me? Are you gonna stop bullying me?" And Kevin's like, all right, I'll stop. Just stop being weird. Stop doing this weird stuff to me." And so James gets back up and goes to Adina and is like, "Thank you for that. Like I needed to hear that. Like, thank you. This is the best night of my life." And like, is really awkward. Like, tries to kiss her, but instead of like giving her a kiss, does like a weird air kiss. Is like, and like, he's like, and then like walks off. And Adina's like, "This is the weirdest effing family I've ever met." And so they go to bed. Rusty and Deb go back to bed, and then it ends with a scene where you see like bird's eye view. This time, the scene started bird's eye view, everything inside this weird cement tent motel, and it's you have Kevin who's like hogging the blankets. This time, then the scene ends with Kevin, not Kevin, James has all the blankets, and he has it all. He's like super relaxed and happy and confident, and Kevin's over there in like the fetal position, kind of like about to cry. Not that he is, but he's about to cry. So the following morning, they hit the road. They're on the road. After all this crazy stuff happens, they're on the road. And what happens next? I gotta remember what happens. This movie is so crazy. It's hard to remember what happens because it's just so crazy. They're on the road. Oh yeah, they're on the road. There's a montage thing of them getting to Colorado. They cross this big river canyon thing, and they stop at a White River like rafting place, and they have an instructor, and that instructor is played by Charlie Day, another cameo by another actor that is like recognizable and well known. This movie has so many famous actors in it. It's pretty crazy. Um, so he's the instructor, hilarious. Charlie Day, really funny guy. And what's funny about this whole thing is that he's making jokes, right? He's like, "Is this the Fung family? The Fung family?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I know you're the Griswolds. You should have seen your faces when I said Fung family." You're like, "What? The Fung family? We're not the Fung family." He just keeps making like just these crazy jokes, and the family's just like, "Okay, like, all right, sure." And he's like, "All right, I'm your instructor for today." He's like, "It's my first day." "Oh, you should have seen your faces. It's not my first day." Like he's just crazy funny. And he's like, "Yeah, I got my license at a Cracker Box." "Yeah, no, you should have seen your faces. I don't really like." And like he just makes these like really silly jokes. He makes everything so awkward. And so he gets a phone call. He's like, "All right, folks, let me take this phone call real quick. It's my fiance. He's like, I'm about to get married, so I better take this call, or I'm going to be in hot water, just like the river." And he's like, "Oh, just kidding. The river's actually really cold." He takes the call, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "No, no, you can't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Like, I love you. You love me." He's like, "Tanya, no." And like, Tanya, I guess, hangs up, and he's like, "No." He throws the phone in the water and just has this big like yell into the canyon. He's like, "No! Why?" Like super awkward, super long. He turns around, he's like, "All right, you folks ready to go?" And then Deb is like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah. I'm no longer engaged, but I'm good. Like, we're ready to go." And they're just like, and Deb is like, "I'm not sure we should do this." And Rusty goes, "Oh, he's just kidding," because he's been joking this whole time. But that actually was really like serious, and it did happen to him. So they're on the boat, and like it's a kind of in slow motion. They're like on the river on this, on this boat. Rather, they're doing a white water rafting thing. And so Charlie Day, he's just sitting there. He's not even trying. He's just sitting there, like just out of it. He sees Rusty and Deb kiss, and he's just like, he looks up and there's like two birds flying next to each other. He like looks into the water and he like sticks his head in the water trying to drown himself. And Rusty pulls him out and like grabs the paddle and is like, "Here, take the paddle, do your job." And so the Charlie Day actor, whatever the guy, he's playing, he looks over and he sees that the river splits. There's like the easy way, smooth, and then he looks to the left and like the water's really rough. And so he takes the paddle and like starts turning the boat to go that way. He gets this crazy look in his face. He's just like, "Ah." And so he takes the family down this like crazy, like the water is like super aggressive. The boat's going up and down. The kids are yelling. Deb's yelling. Rusty's yelling. They're all like, "Ah!" They're just the boat's going up and down. And the Charlie Day, the character he plays, he's in the back. He he grabs the paddle and just throws it. He just like throws it in the air, and they see that they're coming up to a waterfall, and so the whole family jumps the boat to swim to the shore, and Charlie Day's on the boat, and the boat just keeps going, and he's got this crazy look on his face, and the boat goes over the waterfall, and it's a massive waterfall. It's got such a huge like fall. I don't know how many feet. I mean, we're talking like 200 feet. I don't know, more than that. And so you see him from far away. It's got like a big long shot. You see the boat tiny, and the character it goes over the waterfall, and he just like falls into it. And so the family is like on the shore, like hanging onto a log that's like falling over, and they're like, "Oh my god!" Then it cuts to them at the car. Everybody's silent. You know. Oh man, let me take a drink here. Everybody's silent. We're coming to the very, we've passed the midpoint. The midpoint of the movie was when they were at the house visiting Audrey, and they made it seem like they had the perfect love and whatnot, which was all acting. They were just doing that to pretend that they were happy and whatnot. But we find out later that's not what's going on. But anyways, we're coming up to the end of Act Two. So they're in the van. Everyone's miserable, and everyone's like wants to go home. And Rusty's like, we're a day away from getting the Wally. We can't turn around now. He's still optimistic. He's still trying to get the family upbeat and going. He's been the one cheerleading, even though all this stuff has been happening. So eventually, again, that same Seal song comes on, and he starts singing it, but the radio's cutting out, bad reception, and so Deb's like turns it off. It's like it's over, okay? It's not even clear, like it's not you can't even hear it right. So Rusty's like, okay, like gets kind of upset, and then they run out of gas, and so it cuts to them standing outside. The car isn't working, and they're just kind of like talking about it. It's like, Rusty's like, we'll be all right, we'll be okay, we'll figure it out. And so maybe he's like, if I maybe it has like an emergency call or something if I push one of the buttons. So he pushes the top hat button. And when he pushes it, all the windows explode in the van. They go and they all shatter, and they're all just like, what the hell just happened? And he's like, well, I'm not trying the swastika button. The only button left is the muffin button. And so he's like, come on, muffin. And so he pushes the muffin thing, and the car starts. And they're like, "All right!" They get excited. It's like, "Oh yeah, it's that second tank in there, the gas tank." I know it is the second one. So they start walking towards the car, and before they get into it, the thing just drives off on its own. And the GPS thing with the Korean voice starts yelling like, "What? It's like yelling, and the car drives off on its own. And everyone's like, let's make the car stop, make the car stop. He's like, all right, maybe if I press the muffin button again, it'll stop. So he points at the key thing, and he pushes the muffin button again. It makes a little beep noise, and the car explodes. It freaking blows up, and you're just like, what? It's the funniest thing ever. And the family is like, they cannot believe that their whole van just exploded. It's like, what features? What a weird feature to have in a car where you push it and it starts and goes, and then push it again, it blows up. And so this is what we call coming up to the last bit of Act Two. There's a moment that we call the Dark Night of the Soul that every main character goes through. And basically, the Dark Night of the Soul, it's a moment where the main character has lost hope, is giving up, and just doesn't see a way out. He's just giving up. So Rusty is like, he's like, all right, I can't do this anymore. And starts talking. He's like mad. He's just like, I failed you guys. I'm the worst husband. Like, Debbie, you deserve better. My kids don't even like me. You're miserable. He's saying pretty much like a bit of the truth a little bit. And so he's mad. He's like, you know what? You guys are on your own. He starts walking, and then Deb and the two kids are just like they're confused. And so here comes the semi truck out of nowhere. And so the semi truck starts chasing after Rusty. He's running for his life. He's screaming for help. And finally, he tires out and slows down. And so the semi truck stops. It doesn't like he's not trying to hit him. And it stops, and the truck driver steps out. We finally see the truck driver for the first time. And you know who it is? It's Norman Reedus. Did I say that right? Reedus, Norman Reedus, the guy who's in Walking Dead. He plays what's his name? Daryl. You know what I'm talking about? Norman Reedus. He plays Daryl in Walking Dead. So anyways, was not expecting him, but like I said, this movie has so many cameos in it. So he shows up, and Rusty's like, "Please don't kill me, not in front of my family." And Deb is like, "Don't kill him, please." And so, uh, the Norman Reedus, the actor, he's like in truck outfit, whatnot. He puts his hand in his jacket, and Rusty's like, "No, God, please!" And he pulls out his hand, and he's holding the ring. He's holding the wedding ring that Deb lost, and he goes, "Yeah, your wife left this behind in Missouri at a stop, and I just wanted to return it to you." And Rusty is surprised. He's like, he can't even believe it. Debbie can't even believe it. And Rusty's like, this man isn't trying to kill us. He's been trying to return the wedding ring this whole time. And they're all like really thankful. Rusty's like, how could I ever thank you? And man, it's getting windy out there. It's kind of freaking me out. Yeah, it's so windy out there. Ugh, gives me chills because the door slammed. Um, so Norman Reedus is like, no, no problem. You don't have to do anything for me. And he goes, well, it looks like you're having trouble with your car over there. Do you need a ride? And Rusty's like, yeah, a ride home would be nice. Everyone's pretty much given up on the idea of going to Wally World. And the Norman Reedus character is like, well, I'm headed to San Francisco. Would that help? And he's like, Rusty's like, yeah, That'll work. That'll work. We'll head that way. So the truck driver cuts to them making a stop at a bed and breakfast, and they have a bit of a conversation. They say their goodbyes in a funny way, and lo and behold, the guy who runs the bed and breakfast is Clark Griswold, the father of Rusty and the grandfather of Kevin and James. Here comes the original character from the original movies, and and the wife is the same character from the older movies, and he's running the bed and breakfast. But it's funny because two people come out and they're like, "This is the worst place on the planet. Don't ever come here. It's so horrible." And it's funny because Clark is like, "Yeah, we're people. We're people. We love people." But he treats everybody so horribly. It's so funny. So they're having dinner, and this couple tries to join them, and Clark is like, "No, this is not for you guys. Get out of here." He's like so mean. So they're having dinner. Scotty's explaining everything that happened, and so they're talking, and then Clark looks at the corner, and there's a guitar, and he's like, "Yeah, I got a guitar for you, James," and he pulls it out, and he tells him that it belonged to what did he say? What did he say? Bob Dylan. And so James gets excited. He's like, "It's Bob Dylan, really?" He's like, "No, a different Bob, but my accountant Bob Dylan. It's spelled Dillon." And so James is like, "Ah." Then he goes, "But it was given to him by Jimi Hendrix." And so James is like, "Oh, really, Jimi Hendrix?" And then Clark goes, "Yeah, but not that Jimi Hendrix. It's a different one." So it's just like why even bring it up then? So it's coming to the end of the movie. James has a new guitar. That's cool. You know, he's a brand new guy. He stood up to his little brother. So that's kind of had a happy ending for him there. And so later on, uh, it cuts to them going to sleep. Rusty and Debbie, whatever, they go in the bedroom, and Rusty wants to talk to Deb, and Rusty goes in the room first and like picks up the book that says the help, and the sleeve jacket, whatever, the book slips out of the sleeve cover, and it's a different book. And he reads the book cover, and it says, "Is your marriage dying?" And he's like really sad by this. So here comes Deb, and she's like, "I need to talk to you, Rusty." And Rusty's like, "He's like, do you think our marriage is dying?" And Deb is like, "No, no, that's not what I think. Like I, like I'm sorry. Like she kind of comes clean that she's been really selfish and thinking about herself, not the family, and is like, I've been wanting to do like a trip to Paris and this and that." And Rusty's like, "Well, no, that's not selfish. Like we should do those things. And so Rusty pulls out the ring in his pocket, and he's like, "Will you still be my wife?" And she says yes. And there's a moment there, and finally their love and everything is like resparked, and so it completes the character arc, and so it's like the next morning. I mean, they're finally intimate. They have their intimate moment. They don't show it, but they finally bang. So it cuts to the morning, and Rusty's up, and his dad Clark is like, he opens a bathroom. There's a guy using it, like going number two, and he's like spraying stuff. And the guy's like, "Hey, like, can you give me a moment here?" And then he's just talking to his son. And Rusty's like, we're gonna take a flight back to Chicago, or whatever, and go home. And his dad's like, "No, no, no, weren't you gonna go to Wally World? You should complete your journey." And Rusty's like, "Well, you know, it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. Anyways, we had our journey." And his dad, Clark, is like, "No, no, no. The journey is what sucks. It's the destination that makes it worthwhile." And so it kind of gives him encouragement to keep going, to take his family that he promised he would take him to Wally World. And so his dad gives him encouragement to not quit and do it. And so they don't even have a car. So, his dad, Clark, gives Rusty the old green wagon that they had in the original movies, I guess, or something similar to it, Winnebago type thing. And so they drive off from San Francisco. They do a little montage through like the hills and the coast, and they make it to Santa Monica and whatnot. And so they make it to Wally World. They get in, and everyone's like super like wowed by this place. They're all really excited that they actually got there. They think it's really cool. So they finally they go in line to go to the Velociraptor, which is the ride they wanted to go with 3 loops. And it's funny because like they rush to get there, and there's a 4-hour line. So they do a montage of them waiting 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, whatever. Finally, they get there, and when they get there, they close it. They're next in line, and here's like when we get to the actual climax of the movie. Here comes the guy from the beginning of the movie that kind of like bullies Rusty. It's the guy Ron Livingston, the pilot, who's kind of a douche to Rusty. So there's Ron Livingston. He's got like a platinum pass, and so the Griswolds were next, but because he has the platinum pass, he's able to cut through the line and do the ride. And he even brags that this is like their 5th time. And then Rusty's like, he's like, no, no, like you, no, we've driven over 2,500 miles to get here. You're not gonna do a 5th ride. We haven't even done it once. And Ron Livingston, the character, the actor Ron Livingston, he's playing this like douchebag pilot. He's with his family and whatnot. He's like, what are you gonna do about it, right? So Rusty backs down. He like turns around. He's like, I'm sorry, guys, and then turns back around and punches him in the face, and a whole fight breaks out. Like Kevin jumps in, and then James jumps in, and then Deb jumps in. The whole entire family is fighting another family. It's hilarious. There's even a moment where Kevin pulls out another plastic sack around Ron Livingston's head, and he's just like choking him. And so finally, Deb takes him off, rips the plastic, and then so Ron Livingston is like, "Oh, you guys are crazy, we're out of here, like whatever." Like, and so they walk away. And so Rusty and the whole family is like happy that they get to ride this thing. They get on the roller coaster, they strap in. And so as they're, you know, going up the roller coaster thing, um, Deb starts singing that Seal song in a cappella. And so then James joins, and so does Kevin. And so finally Rusty chimes in that song. And then the roller coaster drops and does its thing. And once it does a loop, it actually gets stuck. It gets stuck at the very top. And you know, James is like, is it supposed to stop like this? They're upside down. And it's just they're like, no. It's like Rusty's like, I'm sure somebody will come here soon. And then it just cuts to like night. and, there's, and then it's like you got emergency everywhere. You got people like sitting around your ambulances and stuff, and that they're walking out with blankets. And Rusty's like, so what'd you guys think of Waldy World? And everybody like looks at him like, are you serious? So they're at it's not the end of the movie yet, but we're getting close. So we're at the airport now, and Rusty's like, you guys mean the world to me. My family. I love spending time with you and whatnot, and I love you. This and that. And so then he goes, that's why you're spending a week with the Petersons. And Russ and James and Kevin are like, what? Like, what's going on? He's like, yeah, you're going back home, spending a week with the Petersons because me and your mom are gonna go to Paris. So Deb is happy because she gets the thing she wanted to do, was to go to Paris. So then it cuts to an airplane, and they're sitting at the very back of the plane, which is usually reserved for like a pilot who wants to hitch a ride, or a stewardess, whatever. So they're sitting in that very very back seat where there's a phone right between them, and there's bathroom doors and people going in and out of bathrooms, and they have their little moment. They kiss, and then somebody grabs the phone in between them, and there's the phone cord in Deb's face, and they just have their moment. And then it's like it's kind of the camera's pulling out. You see the airplane in the air, and the camera's pulling out, and you hear like their voices. And Deb is like, "So how long is the flight?" And Rusty says, 12 hours. And you hear bathrooms flushing, and she goes, "Perfect." Pretty funny moment. They have it's also kind of romantic, but really funny. And that's how the movie ends. So I like how they use the airplane as bookends, and then they use the Ron Livingston character kind of as bookends as well, and they throw in the Petersons in there as well. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, the movie's like an hour and 30 minutes long, and freaking hilarious. 2015. I can't believe I've never seen that movie until now. It's 2025. It's taken me that long, 10 years, basically. But anyways, oh, we got a comment there. Fat, how do you say that? Fat, fat Nicker. He says, "Hi, dude. Love your content. Hope you're having a nice day, and I love your channel. Just best, Fat Nicker." Awesome, man. I really appreciate the kind words. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's You're probably one of the first people to ever say that I love your content, and, all this stuff. So I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, that's my ninth movie review. I just went over the whole entire plot, and my thoughts are it's a really good movie. What I'm really critical about is basically there's three things I'm critical about. The two gas pumps in the car, which like didn't make sense to me. There's a scene where they're driving in the car and there's a semi truck approaching them, and it cuts to where you see the back window. You kind of see the semi truck pulling up. Then it cuts to the back window again, like a close up of the kid's face. You can still see behind the window, but there's no semi truck. Then it cuts to another longer shot, bigger shot, and then you see the semi truck. So it's a weird cut where you see it, you don't see it, then you see it. So that's one critical thing that I was like, that's really weird, really weird. And then the other critical thing that I noticed, again, these are really small details. That's a very strange question and personal. But no, I'm not. um, but the only thing I'm critical about is there's a scene. It was like towards the midpoint of the movie, and Rusty and Deb were like getting at it. They're getting intimate, but it got interrupted because Rusty noticed her ring was off her finger, and they kind of got in an argument. His shirt was pulled open by Deb. So there's a scene. There's a shot where they're laying in bed. Here comes Stone, and the shirt is closed, and then the next shot it's open. So I found two mistakes in the movie. They're very quick too. If you're not looking for it, you'll miss it. But I'm very critical to these things because that's what I do. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a screenwriter. I do these things. So when I see these things and I spot them, I make a mental note not to repeat mistakes like that. The soundtrack is pretty cool. The movie has a pretty cool soundtrack. Let's see. Fat Nicker says, "Is that a tumor on your head or is that your actual face?" I don't know. You're the doctor. You tell me, buddy. Funny though. You're a funny guy. Funny guy you are. But anyways, yeah, yeah. So that's it. That's my whole spiel. I did my whole spiel. I went over through the whole movie. I gave you my review. I gave you the plot line. I gave you what I was critical about, which I thought was really kind of things that stood out. The structure is really good structure. It's got a good character arc for the family. Uh, it hits all the points. The inciting incident, is there. The midpoint, the plot turns, even the Dark Night of the Soul is in there about 15 minutes before the movie ends. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm really glad you enjoyed it, sir. Come visit me again some other time. So I'll be doing, depending if I get busy or not, I'll be doing three more movie reviews. These are movies I watch on Netflix. Um, I'm thinking there's a movie that I watched recently that I thought was cool. It's called Ambulance. Um, and yeah, I might do that next. It's who directed that one? It's the guy who did the Transformers. You know what I'm talking about? Somebody help me out. What's the name of that director? What's his name? What's his name? He did Heat. He did the movie Heat, I believe. Um, did he do? What's his name? I can't think of it. But Ambulance is is an awesome movie. No, not John Prescott. I guess maybe I named the wrong movie. No, no, Heat. No, Heat. No, that was what's his name? The guy who did Transformers. I think he did Ninja Turtles as well. Michael Caine. No, that's the name of an actor. I think that's the name of a British actor. He was in the Batman movies. The director who did Transformers, Ninja Turtles. I don't even know who that is. It's gonna bug me. It's gonna bug me so much. I can't remember this guy's name. I'm trying to remember. Trying to remember. Fred West. Are you making that up now? Are you just making up names? I don't know who Fred West is. He did the Bad Boys movies. He did Bad Boys, Transformers, Ninja Turtles. I'm pretty sure he did Heat, starring Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Um, damn it, I can't think of it. I can't think of it. Harvey Weinstein. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a producer or executive on one of those. I wouldn't not be surprised. What's his freaking name? He loves having explosions in his movies. He's the big explosion guy director. But for the love of my life, I do not recall. I keep thinking Christopher Nolan, but that's not right. It's not Christopher Nolan. But anyways, yeah, I think the next. No, you did not. Stop it! Stop it! He did the Avatar movies too, I think. If I'm not mistaken. But anyways, yeah, I think the next movie I'm gonna do is Ambulance. I'm gonna look up the name of the director because it's shameful that I, for some reason, it's at the tip of my tongue and I can't freaking recall it. Um, James. Yes, 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 yes. James Cameron. Well done, Fat Nicker. Well done. It's almost like we said it at the same time, didn't we? Maybe you said it first. I don't know. But yeah, James Cameron, that director, he did Ambulance. I'm pretty sure he did Ambulance. That Jake Gyllenhaal movie. It's really good. If you haven't seen it, I recommend. If you like a thriller, action, shooting up, bank robbery gone wrong, almost everyone dies, and then they try to escape in an ambulance. It's a freaking good movie. Freaking good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. So I'm gonna do a review on that one next. And also another movie I just watched recently is the Lincoln Lawyer. Lincoln Lawyer was pretty good. Matthew McConaughey. So I got that guy in it. So those two movies I'm thinking about doing next week: Ambulance and The Lincoln Lawyer, both on Netflix right now. But if you haven't seen Vacation, whatever, the 2015 movie, which we just got done reviewing, it's on Netflix until December 12th. So I mean, I don't know if you have Netflix or not, but if you do, you got a chance to check it out. It's pretty funny. I thought it was hilarious. There's very few movies that actually make me laugh out loud, and I really did. I really was laughing out loud the whole movie. It was excellent, excellente. Ed Helms from the Office Space did a good job. And like I said, there's so many cameos in that movie. Chris Hemsworth, Charlie Day, Ron Livingston, Keegan Michael Ray, Michael Pena, Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son. So many cameos. So many cameos. Anyways, I'm out, my new friend. My new friend, Fat Fat Nicker. Appreciate you stopping by and cracking jokes with me. My life is a joke. If I'm gonna be straight with you. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, you crazy animals. I'll be doing this again this weekend. I take a break and then probably Tuesday I'm gonna do a movie review. Tuesday and Thursday I'll do two movie reviews. Doing three a week is actually pretty tough because I watch them, I study them, I break them down. Jonathan, you crack me up, dude. You know that? I bet we'd be friends in real life. You crack me up, sir. You really do. Um. Anyways, I'm out of here, folks. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go to bed. I don't even know what time it is. What is it? Like 12, 39, something like that. And yeah, I'm an old man. So, old man, 39 years old, getting there. I should stop vaping. So yeah, I'll do my little spiel as I always do. This review and plot outline has been brought to you by the Indie Showcase and the Stay Gold Film Festival, which is on Film Freeway and is open and taking submissions. The regular deadline is December 24th, and you can find my new book called Dialogues, Oklahoma Independent Cinema, and on Amazon for $14.99 plus shipment. So, anyways, everybody have a good night, and until next time, I'll be seeing you around. Take it easy. Take it easy.